Today is World Toilet Day. The concept of a World Toilet Day can make children giggle, some adults blush, and others want to change the subject. But the title is designed to address this serious subject directly. No one can afford to be squeamish, make jokes, or change the subject about the fundamental issue of adequate sanitation, because 2.5 billion people live without it, causing about 700,000 premature deaths each year, and it's getting worse. We've made some progress, but the number living without access has increased by 700 million people. There are now more people on Earth with a cell phone than a toilet. The consequences of insufficient access to sanitation facilities and poor hygiene are severe. Countries where open defecation is more prevalent have the highest number of deaths of children under 5, high levels of undernutrition and poverty, and larger disparities between rich and poor. A story that's all too common in many countries found its way to the United States media recently, reporting on the horrific murder and rape of 2 young girls that could have been prevented in India if they didn't need to sneak out into the night to relieve themselves in an open field, leaving them vulnerable to attack. A heartbreaking study linked to the root cause of India's malnutrition crisis is a lack of adequate sanitation. It found that many of the 162 million children under the age of 5 who are malnourished in India are suffering less from a lack of food and more from poor sanitation. Those children who do survive are left with mental and physical burdens for their entire lives. The lack of adequate sanitation is a huge economic drain. The total global economic loss associated with inadequate water supply and sanitation is estimated to be over $250 billion every year. This crisis that leaves women vulnerable, needlessly ends lives early, and undermines economic growth has solutions. Today at noon, I will join my colleagues on the steps of the Capitol and urge the House to pass H.R. 2901, the Paul Simon Water for the World Act, before we adjourn for the year. This bill will strengthen and refine the implementation of the Water for the Poor Act we passed earlier to ensure that WASH programming helps leverage the impact of development assistance, but also ensures that our water, sanitation, and hygiene programs are targeted to help the world's poorest, that they're more effective with long-term sustainable impacts. This bipartisan legislation with my friend Ted Poe has well over 100 co-sponsors and is scheduled for a markup in the House Foreign Affairs Committee tomorrow. This significant progress would not have been possible without the leadership of Chairman Royce, and I thank him for it, and along with the many advocates who've demonstrated why the United States must play a greater role to increase sustainable access to clean water and sanitation. If passed out of committee, which I certainly hope it will, I would urge the House leadership to bring this bill to the floor to a vote immediately when we come back in session in December. That's because this cannot wait, and it's one of those rare bills we can all unite and support. Every day, 14,000 children die needlessly because they lack access to clean drinking water and sanitation. Today, 152 million hours will be spent by girls and women to get water, often dirty water, for their families. That's enough work hours to build 28 Empire State Buildings every day. And by this time, not spent working on income-generating jobs, caring for family members, or securing an education. Ted Poe, a Republican, and I, a Democrat who represents Portlandia, don't often agree on a lot. But we are an example of how we can all come together because politics should stop at water.